Well, hi there, friends. Welcome to 1:33 p.m. on a Tuesday afternoon. The Moody Blues comes to mind. October 31st, 2023. It is today Halloween. And I thought I would talk a little bit about people and life and what my dream is as far as a utopia. I don't expect people to all come together and sing kumbaya. I know in reality we are all unique, and there are many groups of people who will never want to interact with one another. There are some people who want to be isolated, other people who want to be social. We are a unique species with many unique characteristics. Anybody who's had pets, animals, those things that run around our house that for some reason we allow to and tolerate to poop and bark and hiss and whatever it might be. I've had plenty of cats and dogs, but right now I've just got Lucy laying by the door there, and having an animal companion, you find that they're all unique too. All animals have their own personalities. And even down to the rats I used to have. Bernie and Choopy and Little Girl and Sniffles. I had think of 7 at one time. But point being that personality, uniqueness, is just something that nature has created, whether it's by random chance or creation, whatever you believe, none of that really matters to this discussion. I'm not religious myself. I believe that evolution is creation, and it may be working towards a purpose that we don't understand. But meanwhile, we're living at a time where we are ignorant of a lot. And even though we have access to a lot of information, it's not the information that we need. And I've been thinking about this a lot lately, trying to navigate this world as just an average human that is trying to be thoughtful, caring, respectful, do things properly, not rip anybody off or work for a shitty company or, uh, buy into scams. Just be a person who is honest and lives his life. Guess what? We all finish last. It's true. The nice guys finish last. Honest people end up getting screwed a lot of the time. This is because there's enough of a negative element of society, the sponges of the world, and many of that it outweighs it for the rest of us. And many of these people are the politicians, the CEOs, the people who make the big decisions, because they're the only ones that have that drive to make it that far. So we as the peons are forced to just reckon with what we're told is true. The more you learn about the media conglomerates and who they're owned by and how it continues to go chunk, ka-chunk, ka-chunk, smaller and smaller branches until pretty soon, there's only like 3 or 4 major institutes that own, these. It's kind of like when people don't realize that Instagram's owned by Facebook, or that Google owns YouTube, but Google's owned by Alphabet. There are just companies that eat companies, and a lot of them, most of them, don't have your best interest at heart. It's not that it's personal vendetta against you. It's the idea that a utopia to them is a dystopia to others, selling your information, turning people against each other by promoting negative news, knowing that it's going to get more views, and having that lack of understanding of what humans really need. In other words, presenting the media as something sensational instead of this is what happened today. And I don't blame people. We love to sensationalize things, make them bigger than they are, and blow them out of proportion. What I've realized is that even if those things aren't a big deal, if they're magnified too big by even a small part of the media, they do become real. We as humans manifest what we see. If we believe that everybody's mentally ill out there, all of a sudden, these illnesses are going to start manifesting themselves. If we start believing that there's a shooter around every corner, then you will have people who say that they're actually scared to go out to the store because there might be a mass shooting. Looking at the data, you find that the likelihood of you being caught in a mass shooting is pretty fucking slim. But nonetheless, the more we hear about something, the more fearful we get. I guess coming back to like 2020, I had people messaging me saying, "Oh my God, I heard Portland's totally on fire and you can't even go down there and you'll be attacked." And it's like, no, I mean, it's falling apart like the rest of the US, but the things that we see are the extremes. If we could just get back to that realization that things are not always as they appear. As much as we try to teach each other to not overreact, to not assume that everybody of one group is an idiot, or because you think this, you must be this, these assumptions that we have about each other and who we are and what we believe, it's hard to let go. I consider myself to be a thoughtful, rational, 47-year-old Gen X survivor, that cares about people, almost to a fault, but I don't express it well. I have a weird way of going about things, but I have my inner dialogue, my inner voice is always thinking about other people, but I have a hard time acting on it. Like, I'm bad at buying gifts. I'm bad at saying, I don't know how I truly feel, because it's awkward being a human too. I just bring that up because we're all like that, and it's okay. As much as we might be a social butterfly at times, we can be introvert, extrovert, depending on, how we're feeling at that moment, but mostly whether we know the person and the people we interact with, and we get stuck in these bubbles of people we can joke with. You're basically an ambivert is the best description I heard. Most people are an ambivert, which is both. It's like ambidextrous, both hands. Well, ambivert is just being outgoing and introspective, depending on the moment. I need a reprieve from people. I need to go hide in my office sometimes, and I'll make videos because it helps me to gather my thoughts. And at the same time, I kind of go crazy if I can't get out and meet people and see people and hang out. So it's kind of a medium. And the older I get, the more I can isolate myself, but I don't want to, because that's, I feel like, the biggest issue that we have right now with groupthink. I would say when I was younger, people definitely had groupthink. It was different though. It's like, did you watch the X-Files last night? Oh yeah, that was good. Somebody had pointed out that on cable TV, if you didn't watch it when it was on, you'd have to wait. So people watched the same shows. Remember when Lost came on? A lot of these old shows were, water cooler discussions for workplaces. And it seems cheesy, but in retrospect now, it's something that if you were an adult in those times, you understand how awesome it was to have something you could talk about with people. Some people, it's sports or the games going on. I don't care for football or anything, but it might be music, the latest concert from a band, whatever it is. Being able to relate with people, and we have lost that completely. Now it's about, well, I saw this, and this guy said that, and this guy said that, and nobody's really thinking for themselves anymore. But we can't even agree on very basic things. It's kind of depressing, I just remind myself that most people are trying. Most people care about each other and have good intentions. And that was the second thing, intention. The first one I mentioned at the beginning was ignorance and intention. And that was going to be kind of the title. Wasn't sure how to word it yet because I wasn't sure exactly how I was going to discuss this. But ignorance and intention are the biggest things holding us back, in the sense that ignorance of what's really going on allows us to post and say and do stupid things to make ourselves and others look like assholes, and not really understanding the full issue. We need to understand an issue before we, can have a voice. An example was, I saw this protest the other day in New York, and this one girl was asked, most of them were totally legitimate, but it was a protest, the Jewish protest that they had in New York City in the subway. or Grand Central, I guess, is where they set up. But one of these girls, younger girl, was asked. She's like, "Well, why'd you?" She's like, "Why'd you come down?" She's like, "Well, the people were having a protest, and I wanted to support their cause." And then she was asked, "What specifically do you support?" And it was kind of this like blank. I don't recall what she said, but apparently, what I gathered from that is that she's not really a member of their community, but heard that there was a protest and wanted to go join it. I don't know whether to commend that or say she should be slapped for that. If you're not aware of what you're standing up for, then just stay out of it. That's, I think, the problem we have right now. You need to know the full intentions of what you're supporting, no matter what it is. Um, it could be a good or a bad thing. You just don't know, but you should be armed with that knowledge. That was maybe not the best example, but I've seen plenty of interviews and discussions with people, especially this is really how I've kind of turned against the what I would call, I guess, the I don't like to use the word far left because that's not the right description. It would just be, young liberal college kids who make these claims that, well, you know, this is important because we need progressive change. We need change because of this and because of racism, and all these, key words come up. And then when they're called out by people who are educated, I just saw this kid just get schooled by this right wing guy, and it was so cringe, but it cracked me up. Like, this guy, he was trying to call the guy out on some critical race theory thing, and instead of them just discussing it, the kid kind of had this accusatory tone, but he was talking about a book that he'd read, and the other guy knew the book. He knew all about the book, and the kid was saying, "Well, I don't really remember it. It was in college. Who pays attention to books in college?" And then he's like, "Well, you paid for your education, and you didn't even learn about the book." And the kid's like, "Oh, I got a scholarship." And he's like, "Okay, so we paid for your education, or others did, These discussions put people on the spot, and they have nothing to say. And I'm only saying this because a lot of people on the left today who make a lot of liberal talking points or pose as liberal talking points do not represent those of us who consider ourselves, I guess, classic liberals in a way. I don't like that term, but I'm also, I believe in freedom of the individual, but I also believe in responsibility of the individual to be educated on the topics. So if you want to fight against something, if you want to make a ruckus and complain, you better damn well be armed with the right education about what you're talking about. And I think this is something that is very key to our modern society. If a person says something dumb, they can instantly be called out anywhere. That is I don't know about that sword. Yeah, that could work against you either way. I mean, but it's also a benefit. I mean, I guess we do have some benefit to that, knowing that people can say what they want to say. Hopefully we don't self-censor too much, but a lot of us definitely are careful about what we say during certain discussions, certain topics. I think that we need a full freedom to discuss the things that we find important, and that means being able to talk about race, gender, sexuality, all these different things, but also being able to talk about growing weed or drugs. Freedom of speech should be upheld, as the first standard. Otherwise, people will continue to test the waters. But I don't know. That's my rant about a few different things. And let me know what you think in the comments, and hit that awesome like button and subscribe if you haven't. And I will talk to you all about 5 seconds when you click on the next video. Peace.